guys, welcome to Amity Tracks. We've been threatening to do some jazz really ever since this channel began, and other than occasionally mentioning something or having one pop up here in the yearly countdowns here and there, we haven't really focused on jazz all that much. I'm a big fan of jazz. I mean, obviously, where I really come from is the classic rock and the progressive rock in the '80s and all that stuff. But I do love some of these other genres, blues and jazz, soul, and all of that. So I want to focus on some jazz a little bit. What I thought I would do is count down my top 20 jazz albums, sort of, because I've made some rules here to where I want to feature as many artists as I can. So, one of the things I decided to do was have only one artist, one album per artist in this countdown. I mean, otherwise I'd probably have 6 or 7 Miles Davis records in there because I love Miles, but that wouldn't be as interesting, right? So I did restrict myself to one album per artist on this list. So, so we could kind of cover some ground, but I figure a top 20. Now, even if you're not a big jazz fan, I still think that this video and the next one might be useful for you because, again, where I come from, with a rock and roll background and a rock background. So some of my jazz selections might be, a good entry point for someone with a similar background. That being said, I wouldn't characterize myself as a dilettante. I have listened to jazz for decades, so I think I've got something fairly substantial to say about some of this stuff. So anyway, we're going to divide this up into 2 episodes. I'm going to do number 20 through 11 here, and then we'll do the next episode will be the top 10, and let's just talk some jazz. So I was going to do 20, and I was, making my list and narrowing it down, and I got it down to like 22. So I guess we'll have 2 quick honorable mentions because these are 2 artists I didn't really want to leave off, but they, went 21 and 22. So first of all, I just want to show you, this is the only compilation. Well, no, technically there's one other compilation, but it's kind of a different kind of compilation. This is the only true compilation, where it's like a best of. And I figure it's probably better an honorable mention. It's a recent release. Now she has a lot of comps out there, but this one is really good. And this one is the one that kind of hit me. So just real quick as an honorable mention, I've got Nina Simone in here, Feeling Good, Her Greatest Hits. This is a comp that was put out in 2022. Really focuses on her kind of mid-60s period. I'm a recent convert to Nina Simone. I mean, obviously, I'd heard, Mississippi Goddamn and Feeling Good and Put a Spell on You, for a long time, but really kind of dove into a lot of this stuff here. Love her version of Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood. Most of us probably know that better from the Animals, right? But yeah, I'm obviously a great singer, but wonderful piano player too. Really good piano on here. Now, my other honorable mention, real quick, I just couldn't slip on the list, but I really want to feature this guy, would be Count Basie. I do love Count Basie, the Atomic Mr. Basie, which is pretty awesome. Some 1957 sessions. Love that album cover too. Isn't that awesome? So yeah, I don't know. With Basie, I really do like a lot of Count Basie, but with him, it is a lot of compilations. I think this is the best LP of his that I've heard. But anyway, those are some quick honorable mentions. Now let's get to the actual list. Coming in at number 20, I have Something Else by Cannonball Adderley. Now this is fantastic. This was from 1958. Fantastic. If you just look at his sidemen here, Miles Davis, Hank Jones, Sam Jones, Art Blakey on drums. I mean, it's a rare thing by this time to get Miles Davis to be your sideman. But as you know, Cannonball Adderley on saxophone player, had played on several of Miles Davis's albums. Was part of his group for a while, and so I guess Miles returns the favor. But this is fantastic. I mean, it's just I mean, again, superlative playing, obviously from these musicians here. Autumn Leaves is great. Got a great opening kind of groove to that. Just awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, coming in at number 19. This is a record I have mentioned at some point, but from 1985, I have Stanley Jordan's Magic Touch. Now, I've kind of discussed him, I think, at least once before. If you don't know anything about Stanley Jordan, I mean, he is really an incredibly innovative guitar player. Does the finger tapping, but just to a whole different level. Where he'll have one guitar strapped on him, and have another guitar like on a stand, and he'll kind of chord with one hand, and he'll be soloing, with I guess chord with this hand, solo with this hand, whatever. I've seen him live do that. It was just phenomenal. This is one of his earlier recordings. A lot of covers, but I mean, just transformative, with his style. I mean, and kind of a nice mix. He's got Eleanor Rigby on there. That's 7-minute Eleanor Rigby from the Beatles, of course. Miles Davis is Freddie the Freeloader. Around Midnight is on there. What else? Angel by Jimi Hendrix. Kind of interesting interpretation there. And he's got several originals there as well. I really like his original Return Expedition. It's got a mysterious vibe to it, but just a jaw-dropping technique. All right. Coming in at number 18, speaking of jaw-dropping technique, I have this on CD. I'd love to find this on vinyl. I've been looking for it in a while. I haven't come across it yet, but Jaco Pastorius, his debut from 1976. Just one of the great bass players, electric bass players. And I mean, without Pastorius, you don't have Victor Wooten and some of these other great bass players who came in his wake. What's cool about this record is he really does try and show you that he's got some range. He does a lot of different styles. I mean, it opens with the jaw-dropping Donna Lee. And really just kind of does a lot of these different styles. And so quite eclectic. I mean, you go on to play with Weather Report and all that, but I think his solo debut is pretty remarkable. All right, coming in at number 17, I mentioned him on the Something Else album, but we do have Art Blakey here with Moanin'. This from 1958. A lot of this stuff comes out of the late 50s. But I mean, if you haven't listened to Blakey, just explosive drumming, and it features the great Lee Morgan on trumpet here as well. The title track is probably the most famous off of here, and Blues March is very well known as also. But yeah, I mean, this really feels like it just explodes out of the speakers when you put this on. With his powerhouse drumming, just awesome. All right, let's see. Coming at number 16, got another one on CD here. I don't know if this ever came out on vinyl. I don't know. It'd be nice. But this is from 1999. Wonderful singer. You ever heard of Cassandra Wilson? And this is Traveling Miles. Now, I like this because it's kind of a concept album. She sort of a tribute to Miles Davis. But it's got some really interesting ideas on here. I pull out the track listing here. She takes some of his songs, either some standards or songs written by other people that are associated with him, or stuff that he actually is given songwriting credit on, like Miles Runs the Voodoo Down, from Bitches Brew. She transforms it into this Run the Voodoo Down, where she actually wrote some lyrics to that music and to that song, and so it kind of transforms it, which is really cool. And then just some originals here, which are really nice, and even some covers that that Miles Davis is associated with, like Someday My Prince Will Come, the Cyndi Lauper song Time After Time. And again, another one where she kind of transforms like Tutu and adds lyrics to that as well. I just think it's an interesting concept. I think it really works. I think she's a fantastic singer. She's got kind of this lower, sultry voice, but she can do a lot with her voice. Cassandra Wilson, Traveling Miles. All right, moving on here. Number 15. Now, as you know, I do kind of come out of this I approach a lot of things from the rock angle, and so it's no surprise that I really do like a lot of fusion and stuff like that. So number 15, got Herby Man from 1969, Memphis Underground. Now Herby Man here, check that out in the 70s. You know, the chest hair, it's awesome. Well, 69, almost 70s. Now this is so Herby Man. If you don't know, Herby Man, very well-known flute player, but in a lot of different styles. I think he's deceased now. I got to see him live before he died. And he had a great band with him. Sometime in the 90s in Houston. It was just fantastic. Anyway, this is cool. Herbie's great, but what really stands out on this record is his band that he's got with him. He's got these great guitar players, Larry Correll, Sonny Sharrock, and just some superlative players on here, blazing electric guitars on here. That song Memphis Underground is great. Does a great version of Hold On, I'm Coming, I guess mostly associated with Sam and Dave, right? Chain of Fools. Pretty cool stuff, pretty intense stuff. Man's flute almost sounds a little out of place with all these big blazing electric guitars, but it's cool. It's cool. Number 14, got to have some Bill Evans on here. I chose from 1958. Oh, yes, a lot of late 50s in here. Everybody Digs Bill Evans. Now, I could have done the live at Village Vanguard, featuring an amazing bass from Scott LaFaro, but I don't know. I kind of go with this one. It's Bill Evans and then Sam Jones on bass and Philly Joe Jones on drums. And Bill Evans is such a lyrical piano player, really uses space beautifully. And it just has a unique flow if you ever listen to Bill Evans' playing. Highlight on here is Peace, Peace, which should sound very familiar, if you listen, of course, to Miles Davis's Kind of Blue. It's a solo piano piece, and it's just gorgeous, just absolutely astounding. Anyway, Bill Evans, what do you say? Let's see, 13, going back to some really ripping fusion type stuff. I've got the Mahavishnu Orchestra featuring John McLaughlin, their debut, The Inner Mounting Flame from 1971. This is blazing fusion here. I talked about the Art Blakey, like exploding. This really sounds like just blows through your speakers. The intensity on here. Obviously, John McLaughlin's electric guitar playing, but Billy Cobham on drums, Rick Laird on bass, Jan Hammer on piano and keyboards, Jerry Goodman on violin. The complexity, is will blow you away, but also the energy. This may be the most sort of rock, out of all these jazz records here. Okay, coming in at number 12, another fusion masterpiece, I think, from 1973. Got Herbie Hancock and Headhunters. This, of course, features the almost 16-minute Chameleon. And he revisits Watermelon Man. It's got Vein Melter on there. This was huge. This sold a lot. That album art on the back there. And this may be one of the biggest selling fusion records, I think, of that whole era, from 1973. But it really is awesome. Again, those grooves on there. For minutes at a time, it just focuses on the groove. Especially, Chameleon's the center point, or sort of your centerpiece. It's like 16 minutes long, but it's just outstanding. All right, the final one for this video at number 11, going to, I think, one of the greatest jazz composers there ever was, and very idiosyncratic personality, idiosyncratic piano player, So I got something from Thelonious Monk on here. I'm going with The Genius of Modern Music, Volume 1. Now, I guess technically this is a compilation because it's a collection of some of sort of mid to late 1940s stuff. I mean, before the LP era, really. But, it's kind of collected on this record. But again, they're from kind of, from sessions from, around the same period. And I guess if this had been the, you know, the had been the LP era, this stuff would have been on it. Anyway, Thelonious Monk has, uh, I mean, a lot of great stuff. He played with larger bands and stuff. I kind of like these earlier sessions because, there's smaller groups, bass and drums, and there's some saxophone here and there and some piano, but with Monk on piano, obviously. But I think it really does show when you scale back, the band. It kind of shows sort of just the elemental like structures of these amazing compositions. I mean, round about midnight, which may be one of the jazz standards of all time, right? Ruby, My Dear, and April in Paris, In Walked Bud, Thelonious, Epistrophe, Mysterioso, Well You Needn't. I mean, just just all of those are standards, that people cover all the time, and to hear him do these in these kind of I don't say skeletal, but smaller group settings really kind of shows you the fascinating composition, of the stuff. And of course, his piano playing is so idiosyncratic, so percussive, and there's silence where you'd think there would be piano, and it's just amazing stuff. Thelonious Monk. Well, all right. There's was it 20 with a couple honorable mentions before that through 11. Next time we'll do my top 10 favorite jazz albums, but again with my rule here where I'm only doing one record per artist here, so it's off a little bit in that way. But anyway, what in the comments, some favorite jazz, let's talk jazz, some favorite jazz records of yours. Thanks for watching, guys. Please do subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, like the videos, all that stuff helps us out, and we'll see you next time.